Hey, what's going on, my friends, and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Victor, and today I'm going to share with you 5 signs that you are clearing, purging, releasing, healing for your ancestors. A lot of us right now, probably much to your surprise, it was for me, are going through this cleanse of purging out old energies stemming from not so much this current lifetime, but your parents' lifetime, your grandparents' lifetime, your past lifetimes. There's a lot of ancestral trauma healing happening through you, through your choice to heed the call of awakening, to walk this path of guided self-expansion. In doing so, you become such a conduit for high frequency energy that even ancestral trauma residue can no longer exist in your auric field. And so you're feeling it, you're purging it. Now, I don't know about you, I never got the memo. So I was quite freaked out, quite frankly, when I started to feel these intense fears and anxieties and phobias and almost like paranoias. These energies that seem like premonitions, like I'm going down the wrong path in a very intense way that I could not for the life of me place. Like, where is this coming from? What has happened in my life that would warrant such powerful emotion, such deep level core rooted fear that would just take me over, seemingly for no reason at all? And then, of course, the mind will have its narrative, and it can start to project these energies into our circumstance and create this loop of confusion and worry and paranoia and all that kind of stuff. And I went through this literally for years before I even knew there was such a thing as ancestral trauma. That it was a thing powerful enough to elicit that type of response. Okay, but there is such a thing as ancestral trauma. It's not just, unlike a lot of the things you hear in the spiritual community, this is one that's actually rooted in science. You can actually tell from a drop of blood if you have ancestors that were in the Holocaust, because it's a detectable energy you can just find in the blood. So anyways, my friends, a lot of people like you are going through this process. And if that's you, this video will help you find out if that is you, if that's what you've been going through. And man, if this video does resonate with you, I promise you a great deal of, thank God, relief. This is a video also to my younger self, which I wish I could have seen years ago, because I can't tell you the amount of sleepless nights I've gone through, going through these wild experiences that turns out are very safe, non-threatening, and extremely liberating, extremely transformative and hopeful and uplifting. Number 1, you might be experiencing strong emotions of fear, worry, paranoia, anxiety, that again seem to have no bearing or place or origin in your life. I'll give you an example. I had a good friend of mine that was a coaching client that became a friend. And we worked for quite a while on his fear of cancer. He was like 19 years old, by the way, totally healthy, no health issues whatsoever, no family history of cancer. And I was like, bro, why are you so insistent upon the idea that you're going to manifest cancer? He was worried he was going to manifest cancer. Okay? But that worry came from, it was completely irrational, and he was aware of that. So you might have similar things like that, irrational ideas, sort of trying as best they can to make sense of the powerful energies that are coming up from you. And when it's a total experience of a strong emotion and then sort of interpreted by the mind, it can start to get really convoluted and tricky, and something so outrageous can start to seem very real, very dire, very pressing. Number 2, overreacting emotionally to things that trigger that particular anxiety or fear within you. Give an example. One of mine is fear that something is going to happen to my children. I'll worry about them to a ridiculous degree that makes no sense whatsoever. There was this one time my daughter and wife went out for like a half hour or less actually they went to CVS, which is like 2.5 minutes down the road, no major highways. And for some reason, I don't know what it was, but I had the feeling like they were gonna get into an accident. Like this is gonna be it. I felt like I knew it. Like I felt like I'm foreseeing this. And this is where all my fears finally manifested. Oh my God, I pacing around the house. Then before you know it, I hear the dog run and they come in. Like nothing happened. 5 minutes later, everything was fine. And like, what the hell was that? I can't tell you, I'm almost embarrassed to admit how many times I've had that happen. And I'm a pretty rational, as you know, pragmatic, grounded person as best I can. I try not to get lifted away too much to these spiritual concepts. But even the emotions are so potent that they can be very tough to deal with, quite honestly. And if you think about it, it makes sense. If your ancestors went through something so traumatic that they were unable to even look at or fully process, that's like the potency of what's coming up. Something that other people could not deal with. They could not stop themselves from resisting it. And therefore it stayed locked inside of them and passed on to the next of kin, passed on to your mother, which is passed on to you in the womb, and all of a sudden it's coming out one way or another. But you might find yourself overreacting emotionally to things that would never in a million years warrant that type of reaction. Number 3, dreams. This would be for some of you, but dreams that feel like, and you might even think, are a premonition. I would have so many dreams, man, of like bad things happening to my family. I can laugh about it somewhat now because I'm moving through it. I'm not done, honestly, but I'm moving through it to the point where I can see it for what it is. It's not serious. But anyway, I've had so many dreams. One of them in particular that happened maybe a few months ago is we were hiking in Sedona. And my little son Sebastian, he's 5 right now, and he loves to climb. This kid's like a monkey, man. He's just always hanging from stuff, climbing trees, climbing on my workout equipment. And anyway, sorry. It's okay, buddy. There was we were like up kind of high in the mountains, and there was this ledge. And he jumped to make it over, but he missed, and he fell in this little hole that was like the size of him. Again, this is a dream, mind you, but he fell way down. And I'll never forget my emotional response to that. He fell so far down. And in my dreams, almost every time, everything was okay. But there was still it was a real scary, I woke up and I was like, at the time actually, I kind of knew what it meant. But in the past, I would wake up from those types of dreams, like it would bug me out all week. I would think, oh my God, it's finally happening. My worst fears are coming true. I'm gonna tell you guys something I learned from a trained psychologist. This guy, he's a coach of mine. He has 2 PhDs, mind you. Very, very well educated, particularly in like Carl Jungian psychology. So he's a master at interpreting dreams, and his name is Doug. Doug said that, Vic, man, when you have those dreams that are very nightmarish, or like your worst fears come into being, and you wake up from them, he said you should be celebrating. That's a good thing. He said your subconsciousness will naturally, on its own, purge itself, these are his words, of negative programming is what he said, and it will do so through a dream. So when you have those dreams, but you wake up and say, oh wow, thank God, this is real life. That was just a dream. He says that is like, you can look back and say that the healing was done. There's nothing you have to do. It's certainly not a premonition. Most of these dreams are just metaphors of you. They're like extensions of you anyway, projected through other people and whatnot. So my friend, if you're having these types of dreams, just let me say, you can look at them with like celebration, like, oh wow, I got a lot of work done and I was just sleeping, thank goodness. Number 4, you might also start to experience a momentum of what I call negative synchronicity. Some of you watch my channel and you know I sometimes put 1111 at the beginning. I do that because a lot of people will start to see 1111 on license plates, clocks, etc. when they start to wake up spiritually. It's like a wake-up call from the higher self saying, you're waking up, here we go. So people would see 1111 and think, oh, I'm on track, it's good, there's magic in the universe. Well, that same synchronicity, repetitive pattern phenomenon can also play out in an opposite way, provoking an opposite reaction of, oh shit, there's that number. Ooh. Sinking feeling in your heart. Oh, I'm off track. Some of you will see what I will call conventional negative synchronicities like 911. And some of you will invent your own. It might not even be a number. It could be just a symbol. Every time you see a dead bug or something, it could be like, oh, death, dying, something's gonna happen. You know, for me, I would see as an example, I would see 2 and 4, which was kind of inconvenient because that's like, that makes up, you see those all the time, obviously. It's like 2 and 4, pretty common. It's like 20% of the 1 through 10 numbers. And what that represented to me was losing a family member. 4 was like 4 out of 5, because I have 3 kids and a wife, so 5 are in my family. 4 meant we lost one. 2 meant two was like 2 out of 3 kids. I know it sounds crazy, but I would see these numbers and they would sort of trigger that exact same fear, emotion, that sort of complex, heavily layered feeling of just energy. And it would bring it up from like the very core of my being. These weren't surface level types of concerns. They were deep rooted, just anxieties and fears that these numbers would bring up with me. Now my advice to you, my friend, is to do what I do now, which is for the most part like the dream. I treat them like the dream. Like, okay, it's negative programming just leaving my system. There's like an echo of it in a synchronicity. It's a reflection of what's already kind of happening and releasing. I can dwell on it. I can run in circles with my mind, or I can simply allow it and see it for what it is. What's coming out is what's coming up is going out. And you're just seeing these signs of it through synchronicities. Number 5, tying this all together, you might find that what you're processing through is eerily similar, strikingly similar to something your parents or your grandparents or so on down the line have experienced. Oftentimes, if you dig deep enough, you'll see your great-grandparents and your grandparents and your parents all have been playing with this particular theme. Okay? And this can sort of be a nice confirmation for you and can sort of imply the beginning of the end, at the very least, the transition into understanding of why you've been feeling this way, what it represents. I'll give an example. This happened to me a few years after I started going through it during an ayahuasca ceremony. This happened last March, or no, like last November in Costa Rica, where in this space, my grandfather came through on my mom's side. He literally came through. And I'm not somebody that normally talks to spirits, but it was like his energy. I could just feel it. It was so mind-blowing, honestly. And in this sort of space, he was crying very intensely. He was just mourning and crying, and I was able to kind of look at and watch this from kind of a higher state of consciousness with more clarity, and also from like a neutral standpoint. I could read it. I could read what he was going through. On one hand, he was crying because my grandfather lost a son when he was 10 years old to, I think, tuberculosis. And I could tell he was just crying and feeling horrible. But he also, in that, he was beating himself up. He was not forgiving himself. He felt responsible in some way. He felt like he didn't appreciate his son when he was around. He felt like he worked too much or whatever it was. There was something like that where he felt like he needed to punish himself. And those exact feelings are exactly what I was working with. I was working with this feeling of, you're going to cause this to happen. You're going to deserve this to happen, which is what I believe my grandfather thought. He thought he deserved that horrible experience. The reality is no one deserves to lose a child, no matter what you do. But the point is, my friends, it was like, oh my, holy cow, that's it. Now, with me, that clarity, it has not gone away completely. But it was the beginning of peace, and I could really, it was undeniable. That makes so much sense. Thank God. I took a lot of relief from that. And shortly after that, those deep energies finally started to purge out of my system in a very visceral way, a very cathartic, physical way through things like breath work and stuff like that. So anyways, my friends, I have no motive with this video. I just wanted to share this experience, share these signs in case you're driving yourself bananas like I was for so many years. Just know it's just something that a lot of people are going through. And you could take that from me because I have this unique position where I get to hear from thousands of people from all over the world, all ages, all going through an awakening. And I'm hearing it. I'm seeing it come up in my coaching calls. I do coaching every couple of months, or like twice a year rather. And it's just, these are themes I'm seeing at my retreats, themes I'm experiencing myself. And it's a thing, apparently. So now I have a really awesome news for you. If this clicks with you and you're thinking, wow, Vic, great. I do feel a bit better, but I am still going through it. What do you do? How do you deal with it? Did you learn anything? And the truth is, I learned a lot, but I have a friend of mine named Bridget Nielsen who she's been doing this for about a decade on herself. She's actually trained by Mark Woolham. I think that's how you say his name. He's someone who specializes in this book, in this sort of field of ancestral trauma healing. And she's much more of a master. She's very educated and very helpful in this circumstance. And I talked to her already before making this video, and I asked that she'd come on my podcast, which will record via video as well, to share with you how to heal the ancestral trauma, what to do. Okay, you're going through it. Great. What do you do? Bridget knows. She helped me through it. In fact, one of the things that allowed for me to have that experience with my grandpa was going through her course. She has a course that walks you through these healing modalities for healing ancestral trauma. And it was right after that the clarity started coming in. So my point is, Bridget's coming and she's going to share her wisdom with you, and she's a great friend of mine. She's a pure heart, a beautiful soul. You may have seen her on my channel before. She's been on before, and she really helped me a lot, and I really believe she'll help a lot of you if you're going through this. So anyway, my friends, hang in there. It's a beautiful thing what you're going through. You're healing for the ancestors, man. What a noble thing. Also, it will greatly accelerate your own spiritual growth that you get to enjoy in this lifetime. It's not only this benevolent thing you're doing, it's just sort of, I think, a natural biological process that happens when you raise your frequency. But in doing so, all that energy you get to use like fuel for your ever-expanding consciousness. So it's very exciting, really. That's what it is. It's exciting. So anyways, my friends, I'm gonna bounce. You have an amazing day. Stay tuned for the other piece of content with Bridget. It's coming soon. Much love to you all, and peace.